What's going on, everybody? Brandon Schaefer here, back again with another drawing session. This week, drawing session number 2, I'm just going to be shading the Asaro head that I kind of drew and kind of quickly sketched up and drew. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Very meditative type of video. I think I fixed the camera angle, so definitely check it out. But before we get into that, I want to show you a drawing that I did this morning. I did a charcoal portrait, really cool. Kind of my first time using charcoal in a long time and really doing it with a portrait. I haven't done that in years. I can't even remember the last time I did it, if ever. A charcoal portrait, especially this large. I don't think I've ever done one this large. So very cool. Thanks for checking that out. Hope you enjoyed it. And I want to do more drawing sessions in the future, kind of doing those types of portraits, drawing portraits, charcoal portraits. So stay tuned for those. And I hope you enjoy this video. All right, folks, so I'm gonna shade this a little bit more. Start another session here. I'm gonna do, I've been debating on whether to do graphite or charcoal, and I think I'm just gonna stick with graphite because I have so much of it already down. And I'm gonna use, looks like the darkest I'm gonna go is a 3B for now. Let's just work with that. And I'm just gonna, I'm using a photo, reference photo from the last session. You'd be surprised with how dark you can get with graphite, actually. It was something that I kind of figured out myself when I did an online atelier. You realize that, I used to use 8B and 6B, and those are still useful pencils, definitely. I'm not saying that those aren't useful, but you can get a lot more value range than you think from an H or a 4H. I've done drawings using 4H from 4H to 2B, and the drawings, you get a really nice, value range out of those pencils. And you don't even have to go super dark for it to kind of still get that contrast and the idea of contrast. So I want to be careful with these planes here because I don't want to get them too dark because they're not the darkest planes on this drawing. Darkest planes are right, actually shadow on the inner eye here. And the way to really get it dark is you don't need to press very hard. The trick to it is keeping a very sharp pencil, a very sharp point. So kind of spinning the pencil as you're shading, spinning it every couple strokes, every minute or so, every few seconds. And your pencil will get really sharp. But it's also good to sharpen it as well. And you can get your pencil very sharp, and then it's kind of just breaking down the fibers of the paper, kind of doing different kinds of cross hatching, going different directions. So go one way and then go back over it another way, and the graphite will get into the crevices of the paper. See, I'm doing very, very light pressure right now, and I'm getting it pretty dark just by layering the graphite. So now I'm trying to focus on where that shadow shape is. Kind of fix some of these planes a little bit. This really simplifies shading because each plane is kind of a solid value. So there's no need to blend very much. You know, some planes kind of change value here and there a bit. And really for a lighter value, I'm just going to use this is a B, so I'm moving down to a B. So really instead of using like lighter pressure, I can just use a harder pencil, harder lead, which is naturally going to be lighter. And that's probably too dark. So I'm not sure how realistic I'm going to get with this drawing. Like I said, this one's kind of just fun for me. I'm just kind of playing around, having fun. But the thing I'm looking out for, or not what I'm looking out for, I don't know what I'm saying. It's more of, I'm kind of on autopilot here when I'm just drawing and talking. It's more of like, what kind of finish am I going for? And I'm not going for a super hyper realistic or anything, or not even like a finished type of drawing. So I'm not necessarily matching the values perfectly as like what I'm seeing. It's more of like, I want to kind of show the light effect. So I'm going to have high contrast. At least in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. Like, I'm gonna have high contrast, and I'm getting rid of that plane change because it's a very subtle change, and I can barely even see the line of the plane change on the photo. So I'm kind of getting rid of those lines, and that's gonna strengthen the effect of what I'm going for even more. Because I'm going for that kind of high contrast, very dark and very light. So in the light areas, I'm kind of just lightening up some of these lines a bit. You know, the kneaded eraser is like really good. Really good tool to have. You know, one trick to lighten up your drawings, like if you're in like a large area of value and you want to lighten them up, one thing you can do is kind of roll up your kneaded eraser into a roll. You know, roll it on the table, so that it flattens a bit into a cylinder. And one thing you can do is just roll it over your drawing once or twice, and it actually lightens areas up. That's normally for like earlier stages in a drawing. If you're getting too dark too quickly, kind of want to have more of a ghostly image, you can just lighten it back up that way. That's a good little trick to know. So I already did a charcoal drawing this morning, and I was almost going to do charcoal on this, and I don't know, I just wanted to do some graphite. Figure keep the continuity going with the last drawing session. And let me know if you like these drawing sessions or not. I mean, I don't have to do these. It's just, you know, it was an idea I had. I've seen other YouTubers do it. And I think they're pretty cool. Kind of just drawing and talking, explaining a little bit, and just having fun. You know, I'm experimenting with the camera angles and stuff, just trying to get as best I can. It's kind of a hard thing to get a good angle, but hopefully this angle will be okay. Camera's up a much higher than it was last time, so now it's kind of getting more of a over my shoulder type of angle, so I hope that helps. I don't know, I didn't get many comments on my last drawing session, the first one, so I don't really know if people like them. I know a few people did, but I know it wasn't very structured or anything. Like I said, it was just me having fun. And so was this one, but I want to do different things in the future. Definitely more portraits, and I'll probably start doing some charcoal portraits since I started one today, or I did one today. Kind of a quick drawing. Because I was kind of afraid of dabbling into charcoal just because of it's so messy, but I really love the contrast you get with charcoal. But I started it with graphite, and then I finished that one drawing with charcoal. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. You can get very realistic effects with it, and I just love the contrast. But I'm playing around with like spray fixative, and I'm finding that to be helpful. I haven't sprayed a charcoal drawing yet. I've kind of just done some test sprays in my sketchbook. I want to make sure before I spray a drawing that I like the workable fixative that I'm using. And that keeps the drawings from smudging. I think I'm also going to get like a portfolio, so I can like put the drawings in a sleeve. And that way the drawings won't smudge as much, because they're not going to be like, you know, drawings this size. I don't want to keep them in this book or anything. I can just tear them out and then put them in a portfolio, at least the really good ones. So this large plane here is actually a cylinder. I'm kind of not going to work on the bottom area of the drawing too much, because more of my focus is just up here. But this plane actually, it goes from light to dark, or slightly to dark in shadow, because it's a rounded, this is a rounded plane on this head. Trying to demonstrate the neck. So I'm just lightly rounding it there, and then this plane is lighter. So like what I try to do like is just compare.
I don't know that.
I kind of just compare, I try to compare planes to one another. So like the plane right next to it, is it darker or lighter than the plane next to it? And then, you know, obviously I'm comparing to the rest of the head. Like the chin under here is darker than these planes, and it's almost as dark as the upper lip and the eye. So this one needs to get darker, but I'm also comparing it to what's right next to it. And that's how I got this subtle shadow here, because the plane next to it's lighter and this is darker. think these are a bit too dark. I'm going to try to slightly lighten them. Sometimes it's hard to lighten an area like that because it gets kind of splotchy. But sometimes you have to go back over it. But yeah, it doesn't work being that dark. Because my value range is more condensed. I'm not going all the way to black. You know, graphite has a very more, it's a more limited range of value. So just lightly going over this with the B. Because I want this to be darker and that area to be darker, and probably the upper lip and upper chin or under the bottom lip to be darker than these. So that's what I'm looking out for, like just making sure everything is, like I said, I'm not trying to be super realistic with the values. It's more of the relationships is what I'm worried about. Like I want to make sure the darkest planes are the darkest ones in my drawing, and the lightest planes are the lightest ones in my drawing. So this is the next. Darkest. As well as a small shadow shape right in here. It's actually a shadow within the plane, not the entire plane. It's pretty weird. So we're getting a little more realistic now. When you start putting the darks in, and there's different ways to go about shading a drawing. Like you can build the darks up slowly. With this drawing, I already had a lot of tone down on the drawing, so it kind of doesn't really matter what I do. And I kind of know how dark I'm going to be able to get and how dark I want to go. So I'm just going to use that as kind of a reference. But usually if this was all white and I had just the outline, you know, I would probably build up, I would start very light with the tone and then slowly get darker and darker like I'm doing now. But I would really hold off the darkest darks until the last. It's kind of the last thing. But like I said, I already had tone down on this, and it's not a super serious drawing. But I do want it to look nice. I mean, it's going to get there. It's funny, the photo reference is a little bit of a different perspective than my drawing, and I keep thinking I made a lot of mistakes in the drawing, but I keep realizing though that I was looking at it from a slightly different angle. It's always hard to get photos to match exactly what you were seeing. So even though it's a little off from the photo, I'm just using the lighting as a reference. It's interesting seeing how light this shadow is. It's weird that this is darker than this eye. And this eye is further away from the light source and facing away from the light source. It just shows you how much reflected light was in the room when I was drawing this. What's interesting is it's light against dark. You can see that this part of the eye is light with a dark plane next to it, and then a dark part of the eye with a light plane next to it. Very interesting. To me, anyway. It's pretty cool. So I'm linking the eyes together right here. Shading the third eye area, if you want to call it that. So I'm still using the B pencil. So this area is the darkest area on the forehead. So even though the light's over here, you're getting shadow down the middle, reflected light on this side, direct light on this side. So I'm just going back over the shading I made the other day, and I'm kind of unifying it, cleaning it up a bit, trying to clean up some of these lines as I go. And definitely clean up some of the shading. You know, I didn't really intend to get into the shading in that drawing session. You know, I was kind of surprised I made it as far as I did and as quickly as I did. So there's a little bit of tone on this plane down to this corner mostly, and then when it rolls toward the light, there's not as much light at all. So it's interesting, this plane is completely in light, is much lighter. Actually, the nose in this plane is much lighter than the side of the head. But I'm gonna leave that all white just for simplifying it, kind of making a large light shape. So when I'm drawing too, like especially like this, when it's not something very important, it's more of just a study, or it's just having fun. You know, I try to look at something instead of just copying it, kind of simplify it as well, and go, oh, you know, I don't really want to do it that way. You know, I observe that it happens like that. You know, I see that this plane is brighter than these other planes. So I would put tone in this plane, but I think it would kill the lighting effect. So I'm going to unify all these planes. And really I can kind of kill some of the lines here to kind of lighten up. Show more of a lighting effect, and really if I wanted to, I can put in the darker areas kind of outline the planes a little bit more strongly. And that just gives more of a sense of light versus dark. There's actually a strong highlight, or a subtle highlight on that area. Kind of a reflected highlight. So I'm trying to show that. But on these darker planes, I might darken up the lines a bit, and that would might also make things pop a little bit more. And just really define the planes, like kind of what I'm going for. I mean, it is like a plane study. So now that light effect, that really enhanced kind of this light effect, because now we're losing some of those lines. So where the darker planes are, just by kind of giving them a crisper outline. Helped to get that lighting effect come across a little bit more, which is it's all just an illusion. Does that mean we're magicians? I thought we were artists, but all we do is try to create illusions. Are we no better? Are we no different than a magician? Is our whole life a lie? Is all of our art a lie? I don't know. I don't really care. I just like to have fun. Screensaver keeps coming on every 20 minutes or so. So I'm just cleaning up lines, if you didn't already know. Making the planes a little bit stronger. Not sure how far I'm going to get on this, but let's go back to some shading. Let's try and get the bulk of the shading knocked out. So on this plane, the bottom is dark, but then the top gets lighter. So I'm trying to show that. Okay, so this plane under the bottom lip is dark. Darker than the plane above it, and darker than the plane below it. So this is where graphite can be tricky because it has to be so subtle. So now I need to judge, so this bottom lip is lighter than the top lip, so I need to lighten this bottom lip, and now fits in a little bit better. We have all the relationships there. So the darker top lip with the reflected light, bottom lip lighter, the middle section of the bottom lip's darker. This side has reflected light, this side is light, shadow, reflected light. And then we have all the relationships linking up here. So that's good. Getting a shadow there. And then the chin should be darker than the plane above it. And then the chin, or underneath the chin, is darker than the chin plane. And these are about the same value. Something like that. Boom. So now that is looking a lot better. These are facing the light. This one's actually lighter than these. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'm just noticing all these relationships now, and I really want to fill these in more quickly. So I'm just gonna rub some tone in from these other planes around them. So now I have some tone down. Real subtle amount of tone. So the nose here is very light, and this area is very light, and the ear is pretty light. So boom, getting that done pretty well. I'm kind of ignoring the neck, this area. Kind of ignoring that for now. And in the photograph, I can't even see this ear, which is interesting. And I made a note that this was a very dark area, as well as this. But I'm just gonna outline, fix up the lines a bit. So I'm keeping the lines lighter on the light side. And that's going to help just give more illusion of light, like I was saying earlier. So I'm kind of putting crisper lines and darker lines on the darker planes, or the shadow planes. And then these other lines, I'm keeping them light. Let's finish this eye, because that's gonna. I should have finished this first at the beginning of the video, because that's the important part. This is what's gonna make the eye or the face kind of come together. Okay, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. I always end up jumping to these other planes because I see they need to be darkened just a bit. But like I said, it's not going to be super duper real or anything. I'm just trying to get these relationships. Crisper line there. Okay, back to this eye, back to this eye. Okay. And I need to erase some bring out some highlights here. On that lower lid. Something like that, and I love this kneaded eraser. I love how you can shape it and just make small, crisp and sharp lines. This was a great invention, whoever came up with it. Really makes everything so much easier. Look at that. I mean, that's coming together right there. Okay. Darken up some of this a bit more. And I think this plane needs to be darker. But the shadow underneath it is darker. So, gotta be careful there. So, still just loosely trying to keep these relationships locked together. And this plane needs to be darker. Mostly on this side. There we go. That looks a lot better. Now we're getting somewhere. So when I'm doing a drawing, I mean, like, this is how I would do a portrait as well. I mean, I would just, there would just be more blending and more really soft things happening, but I would just take my time with it. Charcoal, for me, I found this morning, just it goes a bit quicker because you can really blend the tone across more quickly, and you can get darker quickly. This just takes a while because, you know, I'm using pencils and not blending. I'm not using blending stumps as much, and you know, I could, if I wanted to, I could pull out a blending stump and it'd be no big deal. But I just wanted to, you know, drawing like this, it's almost like meditation. It's kind of just getting in the zone and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my girlfriend just called me, so I kind of had to take a quick break. But I don't know what I was saying. It was kind of like drawing is kind of like meditation, or can be. You know, this morning I did this charcoal portrait, and I don't know, it probably took me like 2 hours, 2.5 hours from start to finish, and I was kind of like, it took the whole morning, and it was already, when I was done, it was already like 12:30, you know, noon, and I was like, wow, it's already noon? Like, time just flew by. Like, I hadn't even eaten yet, had to make lunch. So yeah, it was, you know, drawing is when you take your time with it and get into the zone like this, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of, and it can be good for the mind. You kind of just relax and not have to worry so much about life and problems and, you know, just the craziness of this world nowadays. There's always just so much going on, and it's good to just unplug from computer or television, music, I mean everything, any kind of stimulation, and just draw. I mean, I'm still using the computer to like look at the photo reference, but you know, I'm not using my phone except when people call me I need to answer, but I'm not like on social media, I'm not looking at posts, I'm not watching YouTube videos, I'm not watching documentaries, I'm not listening to music. Sometimes I'll listen to music when I draw, but I'm not like, you know, sometimes I mean, lately I've been just getting into the zone when I can. And that's usually if I'm home alone or my girlfriend's taking a nap or something. Then it's kind of like just silence. But, you know, if she's home and watching, you know, listening to music or something, I'll put on my headphones and listen to something. Sometimes I listen to podcasts, or lately it's funny, I've been, in the evening I'll just be sketching in my sketchbook, and I'll have like a photo reference up or some kind of 3D anatomy model or something in one window on half the screen, and then the other half the screen I'll have Netflix, and I'll have like an interesting documentary. So like I kind of halfway watch a documentary, and yeah, I've just been watching a lot of cool stuff. But you know, it's times like this I just get into the zone, and it just depends on what's going on in life, you know, what's the situation. Sometimes I don't have the time, you know, or it's just not the situation. You know, if my girlfriend's home, like I was saying, like I can't just not have anything on because she's listening to something, or so I have to just put something on, and it's not a big deal. Well, I think that pretty much, I mean, obviously I could take this much further. I can keep going if I wanted. If I really wanted, I could just keep going, and But I'm not sure how much further I'm going to go with this. I mean, the bottom of it's a little rough, but I'm okay with that. I think the top is, I mean, it's got it to where, I'm pretty happy with it. I may need to, this is the one plane I haven't really touched. Clean that up a bit. Let's darken this one. That gives a little more form to the nose. And also darken this plane. That way this nostril can kind of pop out there. There we go. That gives it a little more form. And let's darken this one just a bit. So, yeah, like I was saying, I don't think I'm going to take this much further. It's almost there. Let's darken this plane. So now I'm just making very, very slight adjustments that are probably not too noticeable to the eye, but they do make a difference. And that's where you can get a drawing. That's where drawings really come to life. It's like, those very small changes are what makes a difference in the end. So I'm just going to darken this a little bit just to give a little more continuity downward just in this area. So now I have it going across the neck. I have it kind of reading a little more correctly. This area could be a little bit darker. And the rest I'm just going to lightly rub in some tone to make that plane pop, because that one's in light. But it probably shouldn't be as light as the paper. This is really where the light is, so this is going to be dark as well. It's going to be less light hitting that plane. It's going to be more light up in here. And there's actually more light on this eye. There we go. Lighten up some of those lines, plain lines. Can darken up some of these. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know like if you like this type of video. I can start doing like portraits from reference photos and stuff like that. Eventually I think I might want to do some animals too, like my cat, and just random stuff, and just see what I can do. Just have fun, I just want to draw more. I think I really need to start drawing more. And I can really see, like, just in the last like 3 or 4 days of drawing every day and drawing larger, I don't really draw this. This is a 14 by 17, and normally in the past I never really drew this large, and I think drawing this large really helps me. And I've noticed I was really it was hard at first to get used to, and I was doing some really rough, bad portraits at first, and now that charcoal one I showed you guys at the beginning, I did that in like 2 hours this morning, and you know, it's just, they're really coming together. So I think it just takes time for me to get used to my shoulder moving and get the muscle memory back and get things figured out. And see, something I can do here to kind of, this is actually a test, I'm going to experiment with this plane. Since it's the light is hitting over here, I can actually probably lose the edge, blend it out a bit. Completely lose that. I want to see. Oh yeah, I think that gives more of a light effect, I think. Really losing that line and lighting up these other areas. I'm going to lighten up this ear as well. Let's kind of lose some of that. That's pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, just experiment with drawing and sketching and stuff and just have fun. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do. It's just improve and have fun. And there we go. Real nice lighting effect, and there's some light down here as well, so let's lighten this up a bit. And there's actually a dark shadow right under the ear, so that's pretty cool. Kind of have a cool shadow shape, just suggesting the bottom of the ear right there. And then the rest around it being kind of like lost edges. That's pretty cool. So anyway, that's where I'm gonna stop. Alright folks, that's the end of this drawing session. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check out the links down below. I have some Amazon affiliate links with drawing supplies, things like that. And it's a way you can support this channel basically indirectly. No additional cost to you. If you have a need for some drawing supplies, click the links down below and order something within 24 hours. And I get a little kickback, like 4 to 6%. So if you buy $100 worth of stuff, I get about $4. So it's very helpful in that way. If not, if you just want to watch these videos, that supports me as well. So anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Keep on painting and drawing. Don't get discouraged. Take care of yourself. Peace, my friends.